Hey guys, Miss O's here again. This lesson we're going to talk about square roots. Please make sure that you have your ISN open to your words worth knowing section. We need to add these definitions to our words worth knowing. The first definition is a square root. A square root of a number is the number m. When it's multiplied by itself, it equals n. So for example, the square root of 25, the roots itself are 5 times 5 is equal to 25, and -5 times -5 is equal to 25. Okay, a perfect square or a square number. A number that's the square of an integer. 9 is a perfect square because 3 squared equals 9. If you see the examples of what makes a square, you see I have 1, 4, 9, and 16. They are perfect squares because they have 4 rows. 16 has 4 rows and 4 columns. 9 has 3 rows, 3 columns. 4 is 2 rows, 2 columns. Make sense? Yeah. A radical expression. A radical expression is involved in a radical sign. So the sign that we always says looks like division. Finding the square root of a number. A square root, a number which, when it's multiplied by itself, results in another number. 5 squared is equal to 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. Because if I multiply 5 by itself, it's going to give me 25. So when we write it, we write the square root of 25 is equal to 5. Now, perfect squares. A perfect square is a number that is the square of a whole number. It can be written by arranging objects into a square. You'll need to memorize the first 15 perfect squares. 1, 4, 9, 16. Why are these numbers perfect squares? So perfect squares, let's find them. Write these down. We should be writing notes. 1 squared is equal to 1. The square root of 1 is 1. 2 squared is equal to 4. So the square root of 2 is 2. 3 squared is equal to 9. The square root of 9 is 3. 4 squared is equal to 16. The square root of 16 is 4. 5 squared is 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. 6 squared, 36. The square root of 36 is 6. 7 squared, 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. 8 squared, 64. The square root of 64 is 8. 9 squared, 81. The square root of 81 is 9. 10 squared is 100. The square root of 100 is 10. 11 squared, 121. The square root of 121 is 11. 12 squared is 144. So the square root of 144 is 16. Is that correct? No, it's not. We know the square root of 144 is 12. 13 squared is 169. So the square root of 169 is 13. We need to memorize the first 15. We're almost there. 14 squared, 196. So the square root of 196 is 14. And then 15 squared is 225, and the square root of 225 is 15. I'll give you just a second. Make sure you write these down. Let's do some on your own. What's the square root of 81? The square root of negative 169, or the square root of 37. So let's talk about estimating square roots. When we have numbers that are not perfect squares, we have to estimate them. Since 37 is not a perfect square, we have to use another method to calculate a square root. Most numbers are not perfect squares, and their solutions are not whole numbers. Find 2 square roots of this number. Well, we know, because we wrote it down, that the square root of 49 is 7. But we also know that -7 times -7 will still give me 49. So each perfect square will have 2 roots, a positive and a negative. So evaluate these. The square root of 900, negative square root of 196, negative square root of 16. Are any of these perfect squares? If so, what are they? Find the sine length of a square with the given area. First of all, how do we find the area of a square? This area is equal to 4m squared. So we know if we to find the area, we multiply side by side. So the square root of 4 should give us 2. So each side of that area should be 2. How about the next one? Area is equal to 256 centimeters squared. What would each side measure? Let's evaluate the expression. The square root of negative 16z. Well, if we look at the top, z is equal to negative 1. So we want to rewrite that to the square root of negative 16 times negative 1. We must do everything under the radical first. What would that leave us? Negative 16 times negative 1. Well, what is negative 16 times negative 1? Positive 16. Now we would take the square root of positive 16. So number 9 must be 4. Try number 10 on your own. Now, on a sheet of paper, the next sets of equations I want you to do on your own. Remember the rules for solving equations. What must you do? And remember, what will undo a number squared? Think about what we've done.